Hey ACL, I thought I had my computer set up then. Apparently I'm still getting things going. All right. This weekend I posted a video about the ACL Memorial Pavilion fundraising campaign. And in that video, I had made some comments as far as, if I get anything wrong, correct me, let me know, and I will let people know what I got wrong, right? Because that's what this is about. This is about sharing information openly, making sure that we're all on the same level playing field and not playing the I have a secret game and I know something more that you don't know, because that's not really an efficient way to run any sort of organization. So after the meeting, I did receive a follow-up email from Sean Nordley and Ashley Miller. And actually, before I go into this email, and if you have a question as far as what this email says, go ahead and pause your screen right now and you can read it, because you see, here's the intro, here's the ending. Like there's nothing else. There's more down here that I'm happy to scroll to, but feel free to pause your video now and if you want to read this. But I had put that video out there on Saturday, and then I was contacted by a former ACL employee who actually spearheaded this project, Cindy Carton. And she was like, hey, I'd like to, kind of touch base with you and kind of share some information. So I pulled together a group of individuals and we heard her out, wanted to find out like what's going on. Is there any insight she has to offer? Unfortunately, it seems like this is another procedural issue why this money is missing. And yes, there is money missing, right? And I'm not alleging any sort of impropriety. I'm not alleging that someone stole this money. I'm alleging and I'm showing the evidence that there was supposed to be money designated for the Memorial Pavilion designated fund that never made it into the Memorial Pavilion designated fund. And that's really what this confirmation from Sean gives us, right? He shows us the totals, and unfortunately the other totals were rounded up to the nearest dollar instead of dollars and cents. So that's why the number that I showed in the video was $30,338, because the numbers that were reported from ACL apparently were rounded up last time. Not a big deal, right? Like I'm not trying to spill milk here. I'm shouting because it's like, hey, this thing was supposed to happen. It was over 10 years ago. Where are we now? But I did get a lot more clarification. So I'm going to go into the presentation again and kind of go through some of this, right? Because what do I mean when I say, there was money that was supposed to go from the Rec Commission designated fund to the Memorial Pavilion designated fund? That's what the goal of the Rec Commission did for at least 2 years, because I spoke directly with the chairperson, who was the chair for 2 years, and said, yes, we designated all profits from all of our events, not just the ice cream social, for 18 and 19. So again, like it's these minor nuances that do sort of add up to bigger dollars and cents. This came down to no motion card was filed. There was no motion card on file to show that this money should have moved from the Rec Commission designated fund over to the Memorial Pavilion designated fund. It was in the annual report that the commission gave to the board and to the membership during the annual meeting. And they were very vocal and adamant about this in other places too. So I don't think that anyone who's affiliated with the Rec Commission, at the time at least, was like, hey, let's tell everyone we're going to do this and then not do it. I think they were like, hey, let's tell everyone, like, yeah, like, let's make it happen. And they didn't really know how to make that happen, right? And they didn't know how to make it happen because there's apparently not any sort of financial training for chairpersons where their commissions have designated funds. Sean did confirm there was a number of commissions that do have designated funds. I actually don't know if that's in here. Oh, well, I forgot which ones they are. I think it's like golf, deer management, Rec Commission. I think there was another one. But anyways, so there's groups that have designated funds, and actually, I know where I saw that. Here is a financial statement. This is from the 2020 ACL annual report, and let me just scroll up to the top so you guys can see the name of it in case you're looking for it, right? This is the audit report for the year ended December 31st, 2020. And in this audit report is where we see the money designated for that Memorial Pavilion, the $30,000, right? We see, oh, actually, here's where it's rounded up and it's not the dollars and cents number. Didn't make that up. So $30,338. We see that the Rec Commission, 24,718. So that those numbers Well, actually they don't, because this is 2022. So there's, apparently there's been a little bit of growth to those accounts, which is fantastic, right? So again, we know that the money was supposed to have gone from the Rec Commission designated fund to the Memorial Pavilion designated fund to help bolster that, so that the pavilion could be built. So my question that's still outstanding is, how many years did the Rec Commission designate those profits to the Memorial Pavilion Fund? I can't find any of those annual reports anywhere that I showed, except for the one that I showed, and that's because I did get that from the chair who still had that file. So there's that question: how many years did the Rec Commission designate profits from their events to the Memorial Pavilion Fund? And then how much does it all add up to that should have been put in there but wasn't, due to this error, right? This procedural error. We had that huge procedural error with the votes, where apparently it was just thought that it was okay that a totally different voting procedure be used outside of the one that's been approved and incorporated within our governing documents, which is kind of a big no-no. And here's like another no-no, right? It's like, well, how do we keep running into these procedural issues? In 2018, 2019, around this Memorial Pavilion Fund, where the commission, again, clearly wanted that money designated, but it never made it into that designated fund. And so this just goes to show, like, we need procedural training or a handbook for committee and commission chairpersons for those groups that have designated funds. Seems pretty straightforward. Maybe ACL needs an online training, online video training for handling these issues, along with a procedure manual, right? Committee chairs change often, right? It's not like, oh, there's a new election, we can work at, a training cycle. It's like, hey, someone left, so we need to, have another vote, or whatever happens. Just like how I became the chair of the ACL Legal Commission. Another point of contention, right, so that I brought up was, it appeared that there was $34,000 in that account in the 2013 R&R budget. But Sean did clarify the association was going to add $34,000 to the pavilion project with the funds to come out of the 2013 R&R budget. At the August 18, 2012 meeting that I referred to earlier, or in my other presentation video, the board decided to take that project out of the R&R budget. So this money was never approved to put into the Memorial Pavilion Designated Fund. Well, that's great, because that would have been $34,000 in addition to any monies that members had contributed on behalf of their loved ones, right? It would have been like, hey, there's about $34,000 already in that account. Let's add on another $34,000. Let's make that a bigger number. Let's sort of magnify the effect. In 2012, ACL was going to contribute $34,000 to this project before it was removed. So how much will be contributed now that it's 10 years later? I mean, do we adjust that for inflation? It's an interesting question, right? This is what happens when you have steam, you have momentum, and then people start putting roadblocks to these programs without having a cohesive plan in place. So I think that's a big issue. Another point to highlight, right? Rec events are included in the operating budget. The funds, the expenses for recreation events does not come from the Recreation Commission Fund. The expenses and the revenue from those rec events are budgeted for each year and approved with the operations budget. So that's what comes out of your dues money. This includes the Pinewood Derby, Farm to Table, and the Haunted Trail. The designated fund for the Rec Commission comes from the profits from the ice cream social, is what Sean said in that email. And that's only since COVID, because all those other events have been canceled, right? This is the only event that puts revenue into their designated fund currently. Again, those were Sean's words. So when we look at this, right, we have to think, well, if the money for rec events comes from the operations budget, and there's a balance of $24,000 in the recreation designated fund, from that 2020 audit report that I just showed you guys. Well, it seems like there's money now that can go into the Memorial Pavilion Fund, right? So again, the questions I asked earlier, like how much money for how long should have been in there? And then it seems like that money just hasn't been spent and it's sitting in this. So, it would almost behoove the board to just go ahead and approve figure out how much money should have been moved, and then moving that money, putting it into the right account, righting this wrong. Another point that came up, right, is formerly the director of the ACL Rec department spearheaded this initiative with support and input from members. It was Cindy Carton. She was the one who was championing this within the association. And when she was let go from the association, apparently I don't know. In my management experience, when you let someone go, you have to account for what programs or projects they're currently involved with to make sure no balls get dropped. And this was a ball that got dropped, and not like a ball getting dropped to change a soprano into a rich full tenor. But the question is there a board member who will make sure this project gets completed this time? We know that camp has ended. We know that there is money already available for the Memorial Pavilion Fund. Additionally, we also found out that the Bob Mader Memorial Pavilion Fund. Bob Mader was a former building inspector at ACL. He did a lot of really great work. And when he had left ACL, there was a donation made in his name. So on that pavilion, there is money earmarked for a plaque for Bob Mader on this Memorial Pavilion. So my question is sort of like, what's next, right? Does the board really believe something should be done? I don't get that impression, and that's why I'm making this video. And it's kind of disheartening to do all this work and then get an email from a board member, and this is from Mike Harris. He replied to everybody in this email with the board, Sean and Ashley Miller. Sean and Ashley, thank you for your time today. I'm very pleased with your findings and relaying it to all. As for the rest of us, before we start making accusations about money missing, let's get our facts straight. So Mike, I beg you, when this comes up at the board meeting, because again, I have officially asked for this to be addressed at the February board meeting and to be added to the February board meeting agenda. Mike, I'd like to ask you, what facts did I get wrong? Because again, there was money that was supposed to go into the fund. Because of a procedural error, it didn't. And we actually see Marge Clark clarify how this potentially could have happened. She was part of that Zoom meeting with Cindy Carton, because again, we want to make sure that I'm not trying to convince people I'm right. I'm trying to find out the information and share it with you guys. As stated in last night's Zoom meeting, Marge believes the solution to this confusion is to explain to the Rec Commission and other commissions who have those designated funds, how they have to file a formal motion and a motion card to support the decision, right? So the commission made a procedural error. Nobody stepped up and corrected them. They just let the money sit in that account, and it's still sitting in that account. So that's a problem, and then the funds can transfer to the balances on record of the office because that motion card has been filed. So literally a procedural error is what is causing this money to be missing from that account, Mike Harris. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You have my phone number, give me a call. I'm not sure what you were convinced or whatever. And again, I will say it finally before I sign off. I did not allege any impropriety. I did not allege that someone stole this money. I simply identified that money was missing from an account where it should have been earmarked. It was apparently missed by our auditors because I don't know what those auditors look at. And that seems like a very nuanced sort of thing. But now that it's been brought to your attention, are you going to make this right? Or are you just going to still say, I need to get my facts straight? Let's set the record straight. Thank you all. Have a great night or great day. I think it's like 9:30 or 8:34 by your time. Stay frosty, my friends. Take care.